I was just going to say, think about it. You would how long would it have taken you to cross the Atlantic on a ship to come here in those days?
They were probably aware of what happened with the Titanic in that region. Hello,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm okay. How you doing?
Well, I'm actually quite hot, but today is nowhere near as hot as it has been the last 2 or 3 days. It's been awful.
I heard it's been deathly hot in Europe. I just find once it starts to be like over 27 degrees, it's just more humid than it is anything.
Yeah,
On an up note, it means we're definitely not going to be having fires in the east here.
yeah,
But in the
yeah.
West, my sister just called me. She's in the West. She went to visit a friend of hers in Victoria, British Columbia.
Yes.
And she said it's so dry there, the grass is burnt. It's interesting because she said, "Oh, the trees here, it's so amazing." My sister is in her 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And she said to me, she said, "You know, it reminds me of like when I was a kid living in the East, when I was living in the kid and we had so much more space." And now I laugh because listen, she lives in Toronto, which is where I was born, but Toronto is the most populated place in this country, right?
Oh, wow.
It's the biggest. It's like saying you live in London.
Okay.
Okay. To live
Yeah.
in Toronto, like when you say you live in London in the UK, I mean that's got to be the most populated place of the whole of the UK. Living and having been raised in Toronto, I know what she means because, clearly, 60 years ago, we didn't have the population we have now either,
Mm.
you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. So
So
has
it's
she gone
interesting.
visiting? So has
What's
she
that?
gone visiting? Has she gone visiting there? She's gone to sort of like on a holiday.
She went to visit a friend of hers, a
Right.
really, really old friend that she's had since I think university days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's nice for her because she's never actually been out there. And he
Yeah.
always has told her, come, come. I think also he lives there in the summer and he has a house, I believe, in Spain in that he goes to in the winter.
Yeah. Wow.
So he
Yeah.
lives in Spain in for a number of months and then he comes back and he lives in his place in he has a beautiful
Canada.
place that overlooks the what did she say? Was it the Juan de Fuca Strait or something?
Don't
I can
know.
look that up. I don't even know who Juan de Fuca was. Do you?
No.
Let's find
Absolutely.
out. Often referred to as the Juan de Fuca Strait. It's a strait running
Oh,
between the countries of the United States and Canada. International border between the two countries passes through the center of the strait.
I was going to say he looks like a Spanish name now that you've brought it up because I wouldn't have
Yeah,
actually put that as the spelling of it.
yeah, but it's interesting. Juan de Fuca was named in the year 1787 by English Captain Charles William Barclay,
Oh,
in honor of the
in honor
Greek
of a Greek
mariner Juan
mariner.
de Fuca.
Because
There
the
you
name looks
go.
sort of Spanish, but it doesn't look Greek. That's
Yeah, no.
curious.
So there you can see this is the Strait of Juan de Fuca right here
So is that
on Vancouver Island. Victoria is right
US?
here.
Is
There,
that the
right on the tip, and it overlooks that strait.
right? Is that the US below that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Washington right there.
yeah.
Yeah. So she said her friend's apartment and his sister, they both live, I think, in the same building.
Right.
That they both have apartments that overlook this strait right here.
Oh. And that would have been named after our queen, wouldn't it, Victoria?
Yes, Victoria. Yes, Queen Victoria. Well, hello. This is called British Columbia.
Columbia. Oh, yes, of course. But the
A
whole
city.
area is not very populated,
Victoria
is
is
it?
small. So remember I was telling you about these hotels that were built because of the Canadian Railway that goes across the country?
Oh,
And then
okay.
there's these
Yes.
big hotels, and the very wealthy, and of course the wealthy British, because that's who was here and occupied this territory for so long. They would
Yes.
travel on the train and stay at all of these hotels.
Hotels.
And one of them is called the Empress because Victoria was the
Was the
empress
emperor.
of
Yeah.
everything, right? Including being the queen. She was also the empress, right? So all
Mm,
of these hotels were built, for that and the wealthy. And of course, the Empress
right.
Hotel is
Mm.
where they actually do high tea. I loved it when the office would send me to Victoria because I could choose the hotel I stayed at, and I stayed at the Empress Hotel. And then if I was there for like a week or two over the weekend, I would book my high tea and I'd go into the room and I'd have my high tea in the Empress Hotel, which I'd love to have and I'd love to do.
Yes.
And they actually sell a set of china that was made, and there's tea, whatever, specific tea that, now they sell all the teas that they do in the high tea, but the tea that they served and the china pattern is the pattern of the china that they used when King George VI and Queen Elizabeth
Elizabeth.
came
Yeah.
to Canada and stayed in that hotel.
So the late Queen's parents.
Yes.
Mm.
So they came, I think it must have been was it in the 50s? I would imagine. Let's just,
No, because he died in 53. So it's got to
correct.
have
So
been,
it must have been the 40s then that
or
he,
even
that
the
they came. Let
30s.
me just see. Let's
Oh
see.
yeah, no. Because he came in onto the throne in the 30s, didn't he?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
um
He
what's his
definitely came
name
to the throne in the
abdicated?
30s.
Ed,
Um,
Edward the Eighth
yeah,
abdicated.
yeah.
I won't say any more about who he abdicated for.
Let's just see. It says, yes, they visited in 1939,
Just before the war broke out.
just before the war broke out.
Wow.
Okay. And
Wow.
they were the first reigning British monarchs to ever visit Canada.
Oh, okay.
So nobody
They
ever, Queen
became,
Elizabeth, Queen Victoria took this land, but she never came here.
she never left England.
She never left England.
Mm.
Wow, that's
At all.
amazing.
As far as I'm aware, she never left England. But the thing is, nowadays it's so easy just to go somewhere, you
Well,
know.
I was just going to say, think about it. How long would it have taken you to cross the Atlantic on a ship to come here in those days?
Then also, from what you've just said, they went across Canada to get to Victoria. So
Yes,
that must have
which
been a
would have been
journey.
another really long thing. And to do it by train, they took the royal train
Wow.
because you got to realize this we're part of the realm. We're not just part of the Commonwealth. They took the train, which they called the Canadian Royal Train. George VI and Queen Elizabeth and their two daughters, they left
Margaret
Buckingham Palace for Waterloo Station, where the royal train met them, okay, and it was waiting for them to take them to Portsmouth.
Portsmouth. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
from there, they crossed the Atlantic aboard the liner Empress of Australia.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the princesses stayed behind.
Right.
Beginning of the royal tour of Canada, King George VI, Queen Elizabeth, and their two daughters left Buckingham Palace for Waterloo Station, where the royal train, the British version, altogether different from the Canadian version, was waiting to take them to Portsmouth. From there, the Atlantic crossing to Canada aboard the liner Empress of Australia began. The princesses stayed behind.
Yeah.
Unexpected heavy ice in the North Atlantic slowed their progress, and arrival in the Dominion was delayed by 2 full days.
They were probably aware of what happened with the Titanic in that region. Yeah, we're not going to go too close to the icebergs.
Their Majesties arrived in Canada on the 17th. There you go. There's the answer. They left May 6th,
8 days.
arrived the 17th, took 11 days.
Oh, May 6th. Yeah.
Yeah. They left on May 6th
6th. Sorry, I
and
was
they
looking at May
arrived
9th.
here on May
Yeah.
17th. The Majesties arrive in Canada, the first reigning monarchs ever to visit the New World.
Hmm.
They disembarked the Empress of Australia at Wolfe's Cove in Quebec City to a crowd of thousands, including a contingent of Indians from the Huron tribe.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
After a day of receptions, the royal party spent the night at the Citadel. Then the next day, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth departed Quebec City on the royal train at 8:30 in the morning en route to Montreal. After
right.
dinner in Montreal, the train departed at 10 p.m. for Ottawa. This first day was a day of receptions followed by a state dinner. On May 20th, the King's
Yeah.
birthday was celebrated in Ottawa
Ah,
though it actually falls in December. So there's your trooping of the color. On the 22nd, they attended the running of the King's Cup at Woodbine Park in Toronto. This is a horse racing,
I was
Woodbine.
going to say, is that a horse race? Yeah.
Yes,
Wow.
Woodbine is horse racing in Toronto. Then they travel, okay, on the 23rd was via the Cartier, McTier, White River, Schreiber, Port Arthur, and Fort William. So they went to all of these places. I have never even been to all of these places. See here, you can see the map, they how they went and they did all of this. But you see, this is not Northern Canada in the least. Their
Yeah.
Majesties had tea at the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Barracks.
Ah,
All right, then they arrive in Calgary in Banff. Okay, arriving via Medicine Hat. Medicine Hat is a town.
okay.
Suffield and Bassano, their majesties were greeted by 2,000 Indians of the Blackfoot
Wow.
blood,
Wow.
the Pagan, Stone, and Sacri tribes.
So they're indigenous tribes to Canada.
To Western Canada. So you had
Canada.
the
Right.
Ojibwe are in Eastern or sort of, let's say, more
Mm.
Ontario. You had tribes in like they have different ones all across this country, right? There's like lots of them.
Mm.
Then they go to Banff. Now Banff is north of Calgary, okay? And they spend the rest of the day in the
Yeah.
Rockies. Basically, in a nutshell, they go from Calgary into British Columbia, because Kamloops I know is in British Columbia. Okay, then they went from Vancouver to Victoria via the ferry. They left Victoria and traveled via Vancouver, New Westminster, Mount Lemmon, Chilliwack, Hope, Boston Bar, Mount Robinson, and Red Pass Junction to Jasper. So they went quite north because Jasper is starting
Okay.
to go north, right? Coming back east again. Because don't forget, they had to go all the way west to come all the way back east
Yes.
to get back
Yes.
onto their ship.
Oh yeah, they got to do the return journey.
Yeah, so now what they're doing though is they're going back, but they're going back a kind of bit of a different route a little bit. So now they
Yeah.
travel to Edmonton, which is back
Yeah.
in the province of Alberta. So they stopped in all these towns. They made their way right through the
Right.
prairie provinces, which is all the way through
Yeah.
Saskatchewan
So they stopped through a number going and then they stopped at different ones
on the way
heading back.
back. Correct. And then they did the prairie provinces. See, like 3 days. They did
Wow.
a million. This was a huge trip that
It
they
was,
took.
wasn't it? It
Well, look,
wasn't just a there and back again.
they left on May, we said, what did they say? May 6th, and they're still in my country by June 5th.
So that's a month.
Yeah, and they're still traveling across all these places. Okay, and now they're making it into northern Ontario. So then they do a bunch of places here, Guelph, Kitchener, Stratford. Okay, so this is all just west of Toronto. Okay, Windsor. Windsor is
Okay.
the border town between us, and on the other side of Windsor is Detroit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then they get to London, Ontario. Okay. And they go from there to Ingersoll, Woodstock, Bradford, Hamilton. The Royal train entered the US at Suspension Bridge.
I went into US.
Yeah, to Washington, D.C. to meet with Roosevelt.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
They moved on to a reception at the White House in Washington,
Oh
D.C.
gosh.
Then they went to New York for the World's
Wow.
Fair of 1939. They went from Hyde Park in New York. They came back to Montreal. So 3 or 4 days there. Then they hit St. John. So this is New Brunswick now. So now they're going out east in Canada. Okay, then they arrived Charlottetown. This is Prince Edward Island. In the evening and after visiting New Glasgow, and Truro arrived in Halifax.
I just find it amazing the number of places that are named after British places. Because I
But
mean,
you have to
Truro,
realize there was the war, the French and the English, and the British won.
yeah. But so many of them, I mean, Truro is down in Cornwall. So originally, well, it is. Um, and Halifax is somewhere up in the Midlands, I
It's
think.
interesting because this is a mixed bag. You have British names, you
Yeah.
have French names, and then
Mm.
there is a whole bunch of names that are native
Oh
Indian.
yeah, of course, you've got the indigenous.
Toronto, you know,
Yeah.
on June 15, after lunch, His Majesty broadcast his farewell address to the people of Canada.
Wow.
He left Nova Scotia. They left the Nova Scotia hotel. They departed
Mhm.
Halifax for Conception Bay and St. John's aboard Empress of Britain. So they took the Empress of Australia here, but they took
Yeah.
the Empress of Britain home.
Oh. Well, that other one might have gone back because whether it's doing regular trips across the
And it takes a
Atlantic.
while.
Yeah.
Clearly, it takes 10 or 15 days at least.
And
Okay.
they were there for what, a month and a half?
About a
Six.
month and a half because
So
they arrived on May 6th. They left
yeah,
on May 6th and
yeah,
they left Canada on June 15th. So they arrived on May 17 but left on June 15th. So almost 2 months.
yeah.
This trip was
So
a 2 month trip. That was big.
yeah, that ship wouldn't have just sat there and waited for them to come home. It would have been doing other stuff, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So that's why it was a different ship to go
Yeah,
home.
yeah. Where my sister is, because I was talking about
Oh yeah,
Victoria.
that's where we started.
Right.
She's down in Victoria at the moment.
Exactly. Where she is in Victoria is the Empress Hotel. And in the Empress Hotel is this big whopping hotel. And it's huge.
Mm.
I mean, it is huge. I'll show you a picture of the Empress
Yeah.
Hotel. Um,
It's quite common though, even in this country, to actually have railway hotels at the railway stations or just cross the road from a railway station.
it looks very, quite Victorian in its look.
But that, yes, because that's when the railways would have been built, wasn't it?
Well,
So it would have been
yes, exactly. This is the
brilliant.
Empress Hotel.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah, this is where I told you I go for the high tea. And
Yeah,
the high tea, not that they don't have places here that you can do high tea. I mean, you have,
but
but this
yeah.
is the one spot that you'd absolutely must because this is where they stayed in that
Um,
1939 visit. They have photos of them in the hotel there on the walls of the visit.
oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they brought their china with
yeah.
them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
china pattern is the china pattern that exists today.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
they replicate it, and you can buy it in the shops in the Empress Hotel. But it's interesting. I like the pattern of the thing. Yes. So the Empress Hotel now is so in those days and not to up until at least I'm going to say the 1990s, it was
Mhm.
known as it was known as a CP, the Canadian Pacific Hotels, the CP because it was CP Rail, Canadian
Yeah.
Pacific Rail.
Yeah.
And the Fairmont bought them.
The what bought them?
Fairmont hotels.
Oh, okay.
I've
The
now bought
hotels.
them
Yeah,
all. And so they're all Fairmonts now, if you want to. So they might
I
call
see.
it the Fairmont Empress, but we still know it as a CP hotel because it is the heyday of the railway in this country.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what it looks like.
Oh, wow. Yes,
Okay.
I didn't.
Hand
Wow.
painted with 22 karat gold. Queen Elizabeth and King George VI personally selected this pattern for dining at the Empress. See, they call it the Fairmont Empress in 1939. They selected a specific pattern and it was made for them and their visit.
Especially as it can only be made in Canada now.
Let's find out. It says in those days,
Mm-hmm.
they selected the China pattern themselves.
Yeah.
It was crafted in England.
Okay. So they did bring it with them. You're right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, exactly.
But then handed over the right.
And it is known as the Empress Royal China.
Can I tell you a joke? This,
Absolutely.
this actually happened. You know how when you get things from China, it prints on it made in China?
Yes.
And we were visiting a friend, this is years ago. Their child was a similar age to Simon, and Simon was only little. And Christian, their son, he had a toy car, metal car, and he went into his dad and went, Dad, why does this say made in China? I thought it was metal.
That
Cute,
is
isn't
hilarious.
it?
Who would even think that? Like that is too funny. It's
Yeah,
made
but
in
he was only
China.
young. This child, he was about 6 or
But
so.
that shows that maybe he had a bit of a good upbringing, that he knew what China really was. I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
know what
true.
China was until I became an adult and actually could be eat off of China.
China.